So you can see my screen, right? Everything is fine, like
Yes. Yes,
whatever
yes.
I'm writing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the first question was this. You are given a number. It can be like a number which is of size less than equal to 10 power 7. And these are the operations that you have to do in each iteration. First you have to rearrange the digits to find the largest number. Okay, so let us just consider this example like 1 2 3 4 0. So and first you have to rearrange the digit to find the largest number. So the largest number possible is 5 4 3 2 1 0. This is the largest number, and then you have to rearrange the digits to find the smallest number which is possible. So 1 2, that is just 1 2 3 4. Now you have to subtract these two numbers, and this is the number that you get for the next iteration. Whatever is the result of this operation, this is the number that you get for the next iteration, and you have to continue on like this until you get a number which you have seen previously. So this is just a simple implementation problem. You simply have to write this function which will give you the smallest and the largest number possible from a given number n, and then you have to just basically repeat this process, and whatever answer turns up, you just store it inside a dictionary or inside some kind of a set. And once you get a repetition, you just break out of this loop and print whatever answer that you have got.
Yeah.
So this was just the problem. So this is I, this is called the Kaprekar sequence, right? So this is called the Kaprekar sequence, and it is known that for even for large numbers, it terminates pretty quickly. So that's why this thing works within the time limits, and you don't have to think about any smart way of doing this operation. Okay. Um,
Hello. Hello.
yeah. So
Hello.
let us go into the second question. So the second question was
Suraj,
something
Suraj.
like this: you are given an array. The first entry of the array is okay, huh?
Okay, can hear
Yes,
us,
Kishan, you
Rich?
said
This
something.
happened out in the previous session.
Yes. I had it out in the last
Yeah,
question. Can you
Kshitij.
hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So my doubt was how would we implement this? Like we are given a number and we need to find the largest number possible by rearranging the digits. How would we do this in C++? Because here we could do like
Um,
convert it to string and then
in C,
just use a sorted function. But
uh, mhm. In C++ also you could just maybe just make a function which extracts the digits, and then you can just sort the digits and join them, and sort the digits in reverse order and join them, or something. This you can implement. Like this is just a Python shortcut of doing this. It's much simpler to do this in Python, that's for sure.
yes, that I know. But I was only
But yeah, you can do it in C++.
so I will have to go the long way, no, like extract the
Sorry.
digits, put. So I will have to go the long way, like extract the digits and then put into array, then sort the array, and then get the largest number.
Uh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Got it.
You
Thank
have
you.
to do it like.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in the second question, what you had was you are given an array. The first element of the array is always k, and you have to. So the next element of the array will be. So maybe the ith element of the array will be something like k plus 2 raised to power I minus 1, right? And what you had to do was you had to consider an array of size n plus 1, which was defined using this pattern. Sorry, I'm not, wrote it wrong. It's a of I minus 1 plus so this was the formula: a of I equals a of I minus 1 plus 2 raised to power I minus 1. So this was the formula. Now you had to consider this array of n plus 1 elements, and you had to print the XOR of all of the elements. So XOR, so A1 uh, XOR A2 XOR A3 up till a n plus 1. And since this could be very large, you had to print this uh, modulo 10 power 9 plus 7, right? So by looking at the constraints for this problem, what you should have understood is that this problem is actually uh, based on just finding a pattern. You have to find a pattern for this, because you cannot calculate all these elements and do an XOR manually and be able to finish this within time, right? So so you were given that this k would be either 2 or 3, right? So it was a very simple pattern. Like there is some proof that you can do to get this formula, but it was intended that you actually try out some of these numbers and extract this pattern. So for the pattern for k equals 2 is something like you do 2 raised to power n plus 2 minus 2, and then you print it modulo this 10 power 9 plus 7. And for 3, the pattern is a little bit tricky, but it's based on odd and even numbers. So if this n that you were given, right, if n is odd, then you have this pattern. So if n is odd, you have the pattern as 2 raised, you again have this pattern as 2 raised to power n plus 2 minus 2, right? But if this n is even, then you have this pattern as 2 raised to power n plus 2 minus 1. And you have to print this again modulo 10 raised to power 9 plus 7. So all that you have to be careful about is you have to use this modular exponentiation uh, in Python, where, or if you are doing it in C++, you have to roll your own implementation of this modular exponentiation to extract these powers. Otherwise it will give TLE. So this was the only thing that you had to take care of in this problem after finding the pattern. So the third problem was this. So the where you were given 4 arrays, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of these arrays had numbers. So you had to form pairs of numbers. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So what you had to do was you had to play this game where you had to first of all select a pair, then you multiply this pair and add it to your score. So your score starts from 0. I select 7 and 4, I add it to my score, I add 28 to my score, and then I delete these two entries, right? So after continuing this process until I can do it no more, finally I will get some score. And what I need to do is I need to find what is the maximum score that is achievable in this game, right? So let us first consider the answer for maybe just two arrays, right? So if there were just two arrays, what would you have to do? 1, 5, 3, something like this. So uh, if there are just two arrays, what do? You just do a greedy solution. You sort these two arrays. So you take these arrays as 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5, and then you try to pair off these numbers. So you pair of 5 and 3, you pair of 2 and 3, you pair of 1 and 1. If one of these arrays is longer, you still do this. Like if it is 1, 2, 3, 5 and 1, 3, 5, then you pair of 5 and 5, you pair of 3 and 3, you pair of 2 and 1, you leave this one alone, and this will give you an optimum solution. So this is for two arrays. Now you need to extend this method to deal with multiple arrays, right? So when you want to deal with multiple arrays in this case, then what do? You first of all, again, you sort these arrays, and then now you try to think of this again. You try to think of this greedy approach where you select the first two elements from two different arrays to multiply together, right? So let's say here 7 and 5 are the maximum. So I select 5 and I select 7 to multiply and add it to my score. But this kind of greedy approach does not work. Why? Because there are several possibilities. So what would happen in the case where you had multiple combinations where the same score is possible. It's not that any selecting any one of them will always give you the optimum. It might be that selecting one of them, only one of them will lead you to the optimum solution. So when you get into these kind of problems where there are some cases which you need to handle, so what do? You use dynamic programming. So what is the DP that you construct in this case? So you need a DP which is of 4 elements. So you make a DP on I, J, K, and L. So first of all, yes, you start with sorting all of these input arrays. And how do you update this DP? So what you have to do is you need to update this elements of the DP based on suppose this is the current. So you are considering DP of I, J, K, and L, right? And I will try to update a DP element which is further ahead. So what happens when I select I and J, right? If I select array 1 and 2. So what do I need to do? I need to update DP of I plus 1, J plus 1, K, and L. So what does this DP of IJKL represent? DP of IJKL represents that I have selected, this is the maximum value that is possible after I have selected I elements from array 1, J elements from array 2, K elements from array 3, and L elements from array 4. So if I want to update, if I want to encode the transition where I select I plus DP of I plus 1 and J plus 1, what is the value that I choose? So it would be max of whatever this value is, again like I plus 1 DP of I plus 1 J plus 1 K and L, and then I add sorry, I don't add, then what is the value? It is DP of I, J, K, L, and you just add whatever A1 of I and multiplied by A2 of J. So this is for the case of selecting I and J. Now what are the other cases that are possible? You select I and J, like you select array 1 and 2, you select array 1 and 3, you select array 1 and 4. You try all of these 6 combinations. You just have to update the DP table for all of these 6 combinations. You take a maximum over all of you maintain a maximum over all of these values, and then you print the maximum answer. So this is the solution for the third problem.
Yeah.
So does anyone have a doubt in this? Huh?
Where can you once again tell what is A?
Yes.
What can you once again tell what was small a?
What was small a? Okay, in this code.
Yes.
Hello. Okay.
Yes.
So in this code, so my input array is something like this. So instead of maintaining 4 different arrays, what I did was I took this. I maintained an array of array. So my first array is A0, small a0. My second array is small a1. My third array is small a2, and my fourth array is small a3. So this is what I did in my code. So it's like the first element of so ith element of array 1 and jth element of array 2. It's something like this. You got it, right?
Which is good. Thanks.
You understood the DP, right? Whatever I did.
Yes, I got it. Yes.
Okay. So let us move on to the next, the fourth question. This is the last question. So this is an extension of a very standard problem which you face. There is this problem of solving vertex cover on trees. So what happens in the case? So let us see this problem. So what is, first of all, I think some of you might have seen this vertex cover problem for the first time. So I'll just explain it in brief. So for any given graph, uh, let us say this is any graph that you are given. Right? What is a vertex cover? So a vertex cover is a set of vertices which you select such that after selecting these vertices, all for every edge, one of the endpoints is inside the vertex cover, right? So you see that this is not a vertex cover. Why? Because this edge doesn't have any point inside this, and this edge is also remaining. So suppose now I add this vertex and I add this vertex. So now this will form a vertex cover. Why? Because this edge is covered, this edge is covered. So it can be that both of these edges are part of the both of these vertices are part of the vertex cover for a single edge. But it's fine. For any edge you have to have at least one of these one of its endpoint inside it, right? So this edge is covered. So every edge is basically covered. So in general, on any given graph, for solving this problem is NP-hard. So basically, we do not expect a polynomial time solution to exist for this problem currently, unless P equals NP, right? But on trees, this is a much simpler problem to solve. So what happens on trees? Let us see. Um, so let us consider some tree like this, right? Okay. So for this tree, what we can do is we can try to do a DP on this tree and try to find a vertex cover of minimum cost. So the vertex cover problem is not just finding a vertex cover. Why? Because just finding a vertex cover is very simple. Like you can just select all the vertices and you have a vertex cover. So the main problem with the NP-hard version of vertex cover is that you have to find a vertex cover which has the minimum weight, or if if the nodes are unweighted, then it's the vertex cover of minimum size, since the weight of each edge, vertex is 1, right? So does anyone have doubt in the vertex cover setting? At least I think some of the, maybe the second year might have not seen this problem.
Yes, I have not seen this. This is the first time.
Okay, so did you understand the problem?
Not really well, but I think it's fine. You should go ahead.
Okay, so maybe you'll understand after we try to solve it for trees.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
just that you have to find a set of vertices which have the minimum, like the sum of all the weights of the vertices inside that has to be the minimum, and you have to do it in such a way that for every edge of the graph, one of its vertices is part of that set, right? So this name vertex cover is very misleading. You are selecting vertices, but what you are actually trying to cover is all of these edges, right? So it's
Edges.
a very misleading name for some of you. It's really confusing when you see it the first time. But yeah. So let us have a look at what happens on trees. So for when you work on it for trees, then this is the approach that you can use. You can do a kind of a DP on trees, right? So let us forget that this part of the tree even exists. Let us forget that, right? So for the root, right? For this root, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities for it with regards to this vertex cover problem? So there are two possibilities, right? Either this vertex is part of the solution, right? Suppose this is V. So V part of solution, that is part of the vertex cover, or V is not part of the vertex cover, right? So these are the two possibilities. Now, based on these two possibilities, let us try to have a look at what happens in both of these cases. So let us first consider a case where B is not part of the solution, right? So let us have it so that you know that V is not part of the solution. Then what can you say about this? What can you say about all of these children? if V is not part of the solution, what can you say about all of these children? You can say that they have to be a part of the solution. So if V is not part of the solution, all children have to be a part. Why? Because otherwise you won't have a vertex cover, right? So if suppose this is also, this vertex is not part of the solution and this vertex is not part of the solution, then this edge remains uncovered. So if you know that V is not part of the solution, then you know that definitely all of these children are part of the solution, right? And now let us consider the scenario where V is actually a part of the solution, right? If V is a part of the solution, then what can you say about all of these vertices? So anyone? So you can, so, Kishan?
Okay. Yeah, like if V is part of the solution, then the children may or may not be part of the solution. So we can just find basically
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, go on.
like find the smallest size vertex cover in each of these subtrees, like rooted at the children, and then just add V to
Hmm.
it, to the union of all of them.
Yeah. So yeah, you went a little worried, but yeah, so it's like all of these vertices may or may not be a part of the solution, right? So let us try to solve just the vertex cover problem in this part of the tree, this part of the tree, right? So let us first assume that we have solved the vertex cover problem. So what we'll do for each of these nodes, we'll try to find two things. So we'll try to find the minimum cost, right? So we'll try to find the minimum cost of when V is a part of solution. So this we will take it as cost V1, and then we will try to find the of cost V0 if V is not part of the solution, right? So these are the two costs that we will try to find for this particular vertex. Now let us assume that we have done this for the children, right? We have already calculated this cost for the children. So now how do we calculate this cost for the vertex V? So let us do the most easiest one. So if we know that B is not a part of the solution, then all of the children have to be a part of the solution. So therefore, what we can do is we can just take a direct summation of all the children, right? So you belong to child of V. Summation over all of the children and cost of U and 1, right? So basically we are saying that we take the minimum cost of the vertex cover when this U is selected for every child U of V, and that will be the minimum cost vertex cover that you will have when V is not selected, right? So what happens in the case when V is selected? So you again take so first of all, if V is selected, you have to add the weight of V, right? We have to add the weight of V for the solution. And then what do we have to do? We have to take a sum over all the children again, sum over all the children, and you have to add the minimum cost, right? Because it may or since it may or may not be a part, what you do is you try to add the minimum cost, since you want to find the minimum cost vertex cover in the overall tree. So you add cost as you take min over the cost of u1 and cost of u0, right? So this is the basic solution for a vertex cover on trees, right? So once you have understood this, I will move on. So it's a simple extension of so the complete problem. I have not even shown you the complete problem, but so if you have understood, I'll just move on. So there are no doubts, right, in this part.
So Raj, like you want
Okay.
to discuss the
So
time
let
complexity?
us now move on to the original problem. What?
Time complexity, do you want to discuss it
Oh yeah,
here
yeah,
only, or
yeah,
will
yeah,
you
yeah.
do it?
So sorry. Yeah, let's discuss it over here only. Like, so what is the time complexity? So if you have understood this, then can you guess what is the time complexity for this? So see, for now, what we had done was we had forgotten about this part of the tree. So how do you handle this? What you do is you basically do some kind of a DFS and you try to calculate these values for every node from in a bottom up manner. So like you go to the last node, very last node. For the last node, you know it is a base case, you can handle it, and for all the other nodes, you can just try to find some kind of you can just apply this TP, and slowly it's like you will calculate the answer for this, you will calculate the answer for this, then you will calculate the answer for this. Now for calculating the answer for this node, you need the answer for this, and then you can finally calculate the answer for node for the root, and then you can just print out the minimum of the cost v1 and cost v0, and you'll basically get the answer for the whole tree. So what is the time complexity for this one? Okay, so yeah, so Amay said it right. It's order of the number of vertices. Why? Because see, for each of these node, we are visiting each node once, right? We are doing a DFS. So doing that DFS is order and operation. And for on each node, what is the operation that we are doing? So on each node, apart from visiting all of its children to calculate this answer, for each node, what we are doing is we are just doing a sum over all of these. We are accessing these array elements. So what are the array elements that we are accessing? Number of array elements that we are accessing? We are accessing order of the number of children, right? For each of these iteration, order of number of children for each vertex. And then, so what will be the overall running time? It will be something like the summation of the number of children for v, and v belongs to the complete graph. So when you do this, what you will get is for a tree you will get this to be equal to basically the number of vertices. So you can just see, like, for each of these vertices, they are being looked at most twice. Not at most twice, maybe thrice. Yeah, they are looked at thrice. So once this value is looked up over here as cost u1, cost u0 is looked up over here, right, for calculating v1, and for v0 this element is looked once. So for every vertex we are basically looking at it thrice. So you can see that it's like 3 into number of vertices, something like that. So you can just tell it to be order of the number of vertices, right? So this was not the problem that we had. The problem that we had was a simple extension of this. So you were told that you were given a graph where the graph had exactly one cycle, right? Um, and you were told that the cycle was of length less than equal to 6. So I just named this graph 6 unicycle. So let us see how this graph will exactly look. So it will look something like this, right? You will have some kind of a cycle, right? Maybe file. For this example, let us take a file and cycle, right? And on all of these nodes, you will have something like this, right? And there might or might not be anything on some of these nodes. So what you can see is that if you so since there is exactly one cycle, what you can see is that if you just do not have this cycle, your life is very easy, right? Because you only have these 5 trees. So whatever is the length of the cycle, you have the length of the length of the cycle number of trees. in your graph. So for trees, we have already seen the solution, right? For trees, we can just find out the solution given that suppose for trees we can find the minimum cost vertex cover under the assumption that this vertex is included or this vertex is not included. This vertex is included or this vertex is not included. This vertex is included or this vertex is not included. But now the only thing which is left to consider is that in the graph which is given, we also have this cycle, and we need to ensure that this cycle is also covered by all of these vertices, right? So what do you do? So can anyone just tell the idea that you can try for this? So the hint over here is that this length of the cycle is very less. So it's like the length of the cycle is 6, right? So what can you do based on this information? So just let me tell you, for with this information, what we can do is that there are only 2 raised to power 6 possibilities, right? If there is a cycle of length, let us say that the length of the cycle is L, okay? So there are only 2 raised to power L possibilities of how this cycle is being covered, right? At max, this is like a rough estimate, like 2 raised to power L. Like so for some of these, like this, only this vertex is covered and all of these vertices uncovered. This is not a vertex cover for this cycle, right? But let us consider this. Like this is a vertex cover, this is a vertex cover of the cycle, this is also a vertex cover, right? So there are like order of 2 power L. Sorry, not order of 2 power L. At max, there are 2 power L possibilities of how this cycle can be covered, right? So what do? You just iterate over all of these possibilities. So like suppose that I am given that this vertex cover is covering this cycle like this, right? So what do I know? I know that in my vertex cover, this vertex will be a part of it, this vertex will be a part of it, this vertex will be a part of it, and this will definitely not be a part of it, and this will definitely not be a part of it. That is what I know. If I am given that this minimum size vertex cover has only these 3 vertices of the cycle covering it, right? So then what I can do, I have already calculated this value for this tree, right? I have already calculated the value for this tree. I have already calculated the value for this tree. I have already calculated this value for this tree, right? So all I have to do is for one particular combination, I just have to add up all of these values that I have calculated, right? So like for this, I will add the value on in my DP or whatever thing that I did, this cost that I made. So suppose this is like V1, V2, V3, V4, and V5, right? So what is the expression that I have to evaluate in this case? So I have to evaluate. So let us say that if this is covered, I have some element which is called, I have some array C, right? Where C of I represents that this Vi is covered or not. This represents that Vi is covered or not. Then what is the value that I get for one particular combination? So for one particular combination, the value that I get is summation of I I from 1 to L, right? And I add cost of Vi into C of I, right? And so this is the cost of one particular combination. Now what do I have to do? I have to consider all possible combinations and take a minimum over them. But I have to be careful about that. What I have to be careful that the combination that I am considering, it has to be a vertex cover of the cycle. This is the only thing that I need to ensure. You got it, right?
Brother,
Hmm?
I don't think it's required to go over all the combinations of this coloring on this cycle, right? Like well, the thing is that if you remove any one of these vertices from the cycle, you get a tree or a forest
Hmm.
basically. So
Okay.
like just let us say you pick one of the vertices of the cycle and you choose that it is in the vertex cover. Then you safely delete it and
Hmm.
solve the, and you know that the remaining thing is a tree. So
You can
solve
do
this
that
DP.
also. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
that.
And the other case would be
Hmm.
that you just delete all of its neighbors and then solve the problem on that tree.
Yeah. Yeah, that would actually work.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is another way of doing it. So this is what Kishan told. Like there is also another way of dealing with this. So what you can do is uh, once you have considered the, suppose let us consider just one particular vertex of the cycle. So yeah, in this case then you don't even need to restrict the like this one, right? The size of this cycle. So the restriction for this size of the cycle is because according to my solution it would be like something of order 2 raised to power l multiplied by n if the size of the cycle is l. So based on the constraint it would be something like 2 raised to power 6 into n, and this is like 30, 30 like 64, right? So it's a little big, this constant. So according to Kishan's method, what you can do is like consider that this vertex is selected. So you add the weight of this vertex, right? You add the weight of this vertex to your solution. Then what do? You delete this vertex from your graph. Then you are left with a tree itself, right? Since you have deleted one vertex of a cycle, you have actually broken off the cycle. So you can safely delete that vertex, and then you will have this graph which you can deal with, right? You'll have one tree over here, and there will be one separate tree over here that you can handle. And the other possibility is that this v is actually not covered, right? So if this v is not covered, then this and this have to be covered, right? And so if this and this have to be covered, then you can try to again solve this problem on this part, and then you can solve the problem on this part of the graph, and both of these parts are trees. So yeah, you can handle this. So in Kishan's solution you won't get this 2 raised to power l kind of a thing. So this is entirely gone. It will be something like order n. Yeah, that is a better solution. But implementation wise, it might get a little bit trickier. But yeah, and so all you had to do was you had to first of all, you since you are not given a cycle, you had to find the cycle. So you can find the cycle using a DFS. Once you get this cycle at your hand, what you have to do is you have to solve this problem on all of these trees, right? You have to solve the problem on all of these trees, and then so this is the method, like whatever I told, it's just the implementation. This DP is just like this cost array, right? And you have to be careful as to avoid when you are doing this. You just have basically you can use a simple DFS code, but you have to just avoid going into this and this vertex. So that way you can implement it. So this is why I have used this A1 and A2. So basically when I am starting off from, like in a cycle, when I am starting my DP from this vertex, I do not go into this and this. So that is why I was using A1 and A2. And then you can just iterate over all of the possibilities for the particular cycle, and you have to check if that possibility is a vertex cover of the cycle. Then you can just add the uh, you can add all of these DP values correspondingly and find the minimum over all of these possibilities and just print the answer. So this was the solution that I had intended for this. Yeah. Okay. So any doubts in this? Okay. So I'll just stop the recording.